so very easy. My name is Laura, and let's cover how to put binding on a quilt that has sharp points going out and sharp points coming in. Most quilt corners have a nice 45-degree corner, but sometimes we do need to have them with these sharper points and an inside corner. And we can put binding on them just the same as the other corners. There's just a couple of things we need to do different. So having some prep work done before you put the binding on is really helpful. These little points are going to want to shift. So pin the points down and stitch them down. And you can go right over top of the batting. Now that my points are secured down, a row of stitching is needed all the way around the outside. If you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is a 1/4 inch binding, you're going to need to do less than. What you want to do is just anchor this down. You will need to come down into those points the 1/4 inch. If it's easier, you can draw those lines to follow the stitching. That first row of stitching was just to prevent those tips from moving. Now we can cut the batting away. For these inside corners, I need to snip all the way down to my point. You do not want to go past your threads, just up to your threads. You need to do that to all of the inside points. Let's talk about this sharp point first. You're going to be stitching your binding along the edge. And as you stitch, when you come to this corner, you need to have it come right from that corner up straight. So you will have a row of stitching coming along the one, then you're going to take this and you're going to stitch right up off of that point. The raw edges of the folded binding are still going to go right along that edge. You're going to stitch along this edge, stopping right at this corner and stitching straight off. You can't see underneath this fabric, so you can make yourself a template. Take a piece of paper and draw your shape. From there, you need to draw your seam allowance. I have the outside edge and the seam allowance. So I'm going to want to stop right there at that corner and stitch up. Start by cutting that point out of the paper, then trim off just that one side of the seam allowance. So it'll have this little point up at the top. When you place it over, this is the area you want to stop at. Stitch until you come to about 1 inch to 2 inches to that point. Take your paper template and slide it underneath the foot so that this point will match to the point underneath, which this means this edge is going to be straight along that edge of the point. You're going to be able to stitch right to that point. Now that I've got to that point, I'm going to be able to take that paper out, and I know I'm at the exact spot that I want to be. Turn your fabric and stitch right off the edge of that point. And you're going to be able to just lift up the fabric to peek underneath. I like to leave my thread attached and pull some out to give me some thread to work with. So have the thread going towards the back. This straight edge needs to line up along this straight edge. It's important that this point is not pulled or that there's not too much fabric hanging over. Should line right up with that point. And all of the raw edges are going to match up. Put your needle down so that you can slide that fabric right against it. Take this thread and you're going to hold it from behind. Put your foot down, and then you're going to be able to just give a little bit of a tug as you start sewing. You don't need to tug too hard, just a gentle tug. And that's going to help you get over that hump. We now are going to get to this corner. I have that fabric snipped right to that thread. And in the template, it looks the same. As I'm stitching down my 1/4 inch, I want to stop right there so that I can continue to stitch up. But with the binding in the way, you don't know where that mark is. So we're going to use this template as a guide. Cut out a portion of that paper coming right to that point. I'm going to be able to remove that. So the template will work the same as up at the top. Stitch about 1 inch coming to this point. I'm now going to be able to take this, match up the edge, and I know this is going to be the spot that I'm stopping at. So I'm just going to keep sewing until I get right there at that spot. Now that I've removed my template, I know that I'm exactly at that spot from the underside. The raw edge of the binding needs to match the raw edge of the quilt. Put your needle in and raise your foot, and then just twist the fabric so that the V is facing you. Lift up the foot and continue cutting right to that point where the needle is. Now you have a nice big opening. This edge needs to match this edge. So you're going to be able to take your point and move it out of the way. And you can just keep moving it out of the way as you pull that binding to go straight. And that binding will come right into place. You could fold the quilt or anything that you need to do behind the needle. Because the needle is down, you're not going to stitch what is behind it. Line up that straight edge and start stitching. As I come to that point, I'll be able to use the point template. You're going to be able to continue going all the way around, stopping and coming off, and then stopping and trimming whenever you need to. Before we pull this binding over to the other side, we can remove some of the bulk. We can just take the whole point off, just have it come down on a bit of an angle, so you're cutting a little bit of the binding plus a little bit of that point. The one side is going to roll over really nicely, but when you go to roll the other side over, you're going to notice it's a little bit big and you don't have that mitered in the corner. So you need to do just a little bit of a roll in this corner. Take that corner, roll it down a little bit, and then roll it into the binding. Stitch all the way right up to that raw edge. And I like to put just a little knot. So the next one will be folding it over. So if you like, you can just continue stitching it this way so you have a seam along the edge, or you do that little roll here and fold it over. Stitch that miter down on the one side, then the other, and when you're done, put the needle back in and continue stitching. For this inside point, stitch the one edge down, and as you stitch it down, this little corner is going to fit underneath and inside. As I'm stitching that one side down, I'm going to be able to take that corner and just poke it in. It will have this V shape. You can stitch right down to that point. I like to put a knot right at that point, but leave the thread attached. And to get all this in straight, just lift this up and tuck that in. Stitch that closed and turn around and stitch it closed from the other side. Once you have both those sides stitched, put your needle right in and pick up where you left off at that V. So the front both have those nice mitered points, and the back have those nice mitered points. Something to keep in mind as you are doing your corners. If the bulk is on the left side on the front, put the bulk on the right side on the back. So the fold is going to go in one direction and then in the other. That way you don't have all of the fabric on one side, it's evenly spaced. So the sharp points inside and the sharp points outside. Just take a little bit more prep work before you put the binding on. And a little paper template sure helps it go a lot quicker. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.